Hello, welcome back to my channel. In this video today, I'm going to talk about contracting. I'm going to talk about my experience securing my very first job in UX, which was a contracting job. This is in direct response to some of the questions I received in the comments. So thanks for asking these questions in the comments so that everyone can benefit from hearing themselves. With that said, if you have any questions, I promise you that you're not the only one asking this question. I probably had the same questions when I first entered into UX. I'm sure a whole bunch of people on the internet has the same questions, so please don't hesitate to ask. So before we get started with everything, let's start with definition. When you are applying for roles, you're gonna come across these two terms a lot: contractor, and second was a consultant. They are very similar technically in the day-to-day, but somewhat different in the technicality of the job type. Main difference: contractor, rather than being a full-time employee of the place you're working at, for example, Facebook or Google, you're gonna be employed by a recruiting agency, a staffing agency. So let's say you work as a contractor at Facebook. You're not gonna get paid directly by Facebook. You're not talking to the hiring managers of Facebook when you have issues with your payroll. You're going to talk to your agency, which is going to be the employer. You're going to get an hourly rate directly from that agency. So you're not like a freelancer or anything in that. You are actually being employed by an agency. The only difference between that and a full-time employee is that you're not technically being employed by the client that you're working for. In terms of tax, you're going to get W-2 form, which is the same thing as if you were to work at Facebook. Based on my personal experience, if you work in tech, if you are going to get assigned in tech clients, the benefits are going to be really good. You get a really competitive hourly rate, you get healthcare benefits, you get disability insurance, you sometimes get PTOs, paid time offs, and then you get sick days off from that employer. If you get assigned at competitive tech companies, you're gonna get pretty good benefits from them. And there's also something called consultant. That's typically kind of like being a freelancer. You're gonna get your own contract with the employer instead of going through a staffing agency. If you are a consultant, you're gonna get not the W-2 form, which is an employee form, but you're gonna get the 1099 form because you're gonna be self-employed. It doesn't include healthcare, you don't get a PTO or whatever from the agency, but you're definitely gonna get much higher hourly rate as a consultant. Yeah, most entry-level UXers start off as contractors, and I've seen that people with a decade or 10 plus years of experience go into consultancy, and they kind of get self-employed and pay for themselves and get really high hourly rates directly from the employer and kind of work as an independent consultant. As a consultant, you're going to get much more flexibility over your pay, your hours, and a lot more transparency over how much you're getting paid. Staffing agencies for UX jobs, there's hundreds of thousands of staffing agencies out there in this world, but there are some staffing agencies that I've seen personally that specialize in UX and have a lot more UX jobs flowing in and out. The super well-knowns are Synergist, Horizontal, Aquant, Vitamin T, Robert Half, Creative Circle, and Tech Systems. I would also pay attention to some of the local agencies out there. To be honest, they're not going to be the ones that you could easily find by Googling. It's the types that you would find through connections and networking. Well, that's a good segue into how I got my first contracting job in UX, which was through a connection that I got from cold messaging people on LinkedIn. Well, if you've seen my other video, you probably already know that I first tried getting my first UX job by internal networking and internal transfer within a large enterprise that I was already in, and it did not work because I apparently didn't have enough experience. Period. So how the heck did I end up finding my first UX job? After 9 months of trying internal transfers and failure, I almost gave up, but I also cold messaged so many people on LinkedIn, and a few different groups of people that I reached out to people in UX who went to my college. Based on my experience, this was the kindest group of people who were so nice enough to talk to me, to do coffee chats with me, to jump on a call with me, to walk me through their experience. They were just super helpful and giving me tips and tricks as to how they got started. I also reached out to a bunch of strangers out there who had similar backgrounds to myself. in terms of pivoting their career from marketing to UX. They resonate the most with the challenges that I'm going through and the hardships that I'm going through. So they were more willing to share tips and tricks as to how they got started and what I should be looking, who I should reach out to and who I should network with. And the third group of people that I reached out to were all just random folks out there on the internet, on LinkedIn, who worked in the companies that I was interested in working at, such as Facebook, Google, Apple. This group was just a gigantic cricket. No one really responded to me, and even if they were just like a little bit cold. I didn't get a whole lot of like positive, kind feedback. They were just like, yeah, apply for this role. Here's the job posting. If we're interested in talking more to you, we'll reach out to you. So, which group do you think resulted in getting me a job, my first job? Drum roll, the second group who went through a similar career pivot as myself. There is the LinkedIn message that I sent, and here is the message that I got back. So let's think about it, okay? Like, let's put the UX hat on, try to really understand logically why entry-level UXers have such a difficult time finding their first job. And I'm gonna look at it in the lens of the employer, okay? Just so I can resonate with what the heck is going on? Why aren't you hiring enough of us, right? First fact is that UX jobs are very expensive. Average salary that these employers will need to pay us is going to be above $100,000. Second, UX jobs are impactful. If you lack the right knowledge and skill sets and mess up in understanding the users or designing a product, it's going to directly impact the user experience of a product and thus company performance. Well, especially in smaller companies, the truth is that they need to onboard someone really quickly as soon as possible, start making impact immediately. Third, hiring is costly. Average cost of hiring a new employee is $4K, plus all these interviewing hours, hiring efforts, onboarding time and efforts that all the team's gonna put into this person. This UX job also requires a lot of technical skill sets and soft skill sets. I've worked with UX designers who can't communicate properly. I've also worked with UX researchers who have such a hard time speaking up, advocating for the value of UX in stakeholder conversations. With all of that said, these employers don't want to make a mistake in hiring the person who's never done UX before. There's a whole lot of risks that these companies are taking by hiring someone new. The reason why I keep saying that the first UX job is the hardest part and then after that you're pretty much good for the rest of your life is because that's the part where your employer needs to take the risk of hiring someone who's never done UX before in the real world. Long story short, companies don't want to take risks. So what we want to do, we want to make sure that companies are not taking risks when they are hiring us. And contracting jobs are the perfect stepping stones for this. Think about it. When companies hire contractors, they're usually looking for someone who can jump in and do the work immediately without needing so much maturity or seniority. In fact, contractors technically can be a part of a lot of company strategic conversations. So contractors basically are doing a lot of work without needing to have a lot of seniority and maturity. Usually what happens is teams are struggling because designers are not getting enough UX research support, doing evaluative work, or engineers are struggling because they need design. There are just a lot of overwhelmed designers, two designers in this company who are doing everything. So they're just needing someone to come in, jump in, and help split the work of very overwhelmed designers and researchers. And why are contractors great for that? Why do I say contractors don't require a lot of risks from employers? Well, they can always cut you off, and you can always cut them off too. There's very little obligations that you have for each other. I know a lot of people hate the fact that some companies hire a lot of contractors. I honestly kind of appreciate that fact. It's actually one way that we can really prove ourselves and really put that UX on a resume without asking companies to take so much risk. Also, on a side note, we get pretty good money too. And big names on our resume as well. Google, Facebook, which trust me will always help when applying for new jobs. In my very first contracting job in UX, I feel like I proved so well that I have so much transferable skill sets from my marketing days. It's just one way to really prove your value, and it also really lets you say that, hey, yeah, my past work really counts. All that background, all that educational background aside, we're here to take actions, right? If you are an aspiring UX designer or researcher who are trying to secure your very first UX job, really look into contracting job. First action that you can take and you should take is really start networking like crazy on LinkedIn, like it's your first full-time job. And I can't be more thankful for LinkedIn, to be honest. Networking on LinkedIn really works, everyone. Now I'm on LinkedIn. Who do I reach out to, right? People who've made a similar career pivot as you and have successfully landed their first UX job. Look into which employer hired their very first UX job. I was only able to get my very first job because my agency and my client really advocated for UX designers and researchers coming from a totally different background. I remember my hiring manager, my client, saying that
these people with non-UX background are usually the best hires because they have a lot of values that they bring to the table from past experiences.
In fact, most of the UX contractors that I worked with in my very first job actually all came from totally different fields, which was super encouraging to me as well. Really what you can do starting today is start stalking on people's LinkedIn profiles and see where was their very first stepping stone in their UX career. If that was a contracting job, look into what agency they were employed under. The chances are they've experienced successful hires in the past who made their career shift from somewhere else. Same goes with the clients that they're contracted with. It really depends on the hiring manager that you end up talking to. After all, like, it really depends on the experience that they had. Did they hire someone that was a rock star and they brought a whole lot of great values to the company, unexpectedly more than they had thought or paid? This hiring manager probably has a really good impression of people like us, and they will advocate for us, just like my personal experience. After all, I can confidently say that this is all luck, but you can also play the game by reaching out to the right people, really looking for that sign.
Hey, this agency might take a chance on me. Hey, this client seems to have hired a lot of people with similar backgrounds to myself, who were successful hires, so maybe they'll take a chance on me.
Simple, straightforward, quick messages like, hey, my name is blah blah blah. And I also made a similar career switch like yourself. I'm looking for my very first UX job. I'd love to hear how your experience went. I love to hear if your company is hiring. Like I mentioned, this is luck, and really, like, you apply for hundreds and thousands, and it's that one job that's gonna like really open all the doors for you and kick you off to this new career. I'm sure it is disheartening to see that it seems like an impossible game to play, and like, I hope these tips and tricks help, because that's what got me my first job, and I hope this really helps getting your first job. My message to you: don't give up. Please continue pushing for it. Please try this and see if it works. It's a numbers game. If you apply, if you reach out to 100, you might get 1 back or 2 back, but that 1 or 2 might get you your first job. So I am all about answering questions for everyone, because I just went through similar stuff as you guys a few years ago. So I feel you. I really feel you. So I hope this helps. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you. Bye.